a second to settle in all the different channels to be able to get in. And I know it's like the most annoying part about these live webinars. Um, the delay and the lag time between all the different streams. So I just want to let people settle in and say hello. So feel free in all of the different channels, go ahead and just put a little, hello if you're there, if you would like to, so that Lori are not. So thanks everybody. I see at least one person out there. So that's exciting. Just give everybody a second here. Okay. And then we are starting a little bit late because apparently tech always has its thing. So I don't want to delay it any longer. So without further ado, thanks everybody. It's been a long time. It's been a couple months since I've been here on LinkedIn on a live webinar. And so I thought, who better than someone who is all about values-based gifting? And so Lori, would you like to introduce yourself to the LinkedIn world and tell us a little bit about yourself?
I would love to do that. First of all, Lillian, thank you so much for having me and for hearing our story. I founded an organization called Piece by Piece International nearly 8 years ago with the intention to help companies demonstrate their values when they gift to employees, to stakeholders, and to clients. And we do that through partnering with organizations around the globe, mostly underserved communities who are amazing makers of beautiful gifts. And we help those makers brand gifts and make them corporate ready, if you will, so that companies can, in fact, live those values when they're giving gifts away. And then they know where their gifts came from, who made them, and what the conditions were that the gifts were made in.
It is such a cool story. So primarily because a lot of times, especially this time of year, a lot of companies really want to be able to make sure that we thank all of the hard work. And it's really nice to receive something meaningful in the mail. And at the same time, a lot of times it's like, oh, yes, just another kind of blanket or a vest that's sort of made standard, fair, not that well made. So I'm wondering, how did you come even to, create a company like this? What's the origin story of Piece by Piece?
Well, there, it takes me back about 15, actually, probably getting closer to 20 years ago, when I was co-developing a coffee table cookbook for an organization called Women for Women International. Women for Women is all about helping women who've been victims of war transition their lives and become self-reliant. And core to that self-reliance is job skills. And so I watched so many women in the development of this book get those skills, be able to look after themselves and their families. And the power of work just spoke to me so deeply, even though it seems so logical. Especially, here in the developed world, we always talk about, well, of course, somebody needs a job to look after themselves, to look after their families. But in parts of the world, including here in this country, when people don't have a skill set that allows them to work, they could quickly become homeless, become desperate to the point of they end up incarcerated. So work is just so key. And I spent a lot of time around women whose lives were being transformed through that kind of work. And then over the years, I met a number of people and had a number of experiences that made me think that bridging the world of people who were makers and who were talented makers with corporations who were spending, it's estimated, up to $300 billion a year in the United States on gifts. I thought, hey, there's got to be a way to tap into that for people who need a second chance.
Right. And I think what's amazing about all of the products that you have on your website is the fact that they're all different. And you've probably come across someone or something that would be interesting enough for lots of people to be able to gift and be widely acceptable or appreciated. And so, in as many ways, I sort of, when we met, I was like, "Oh, this is amazing! A broker to be able to find all those artisans and all of those opportunities for others, and to be able to find a pipeline that's consistent and able to provide exactly what you're talking about, which is to be able to help one person develop the skills so that they can find meaningful work."
Mm.
I think we're lucky in healthcare. Obviously, we're a healthcare coaching company, and so we're lucky that the meaningful work that all of us do in healthcare is patient care. And
Mhm.
also, even for the executives and the people who are in the non-clinical jobs, it's really running a huge operations, but at the center of it is the core value of patients. We are all patients. Our communities are patients of
Right.
different cultures from all around the world.
Mhm.
And I'm wondering, when we talked about the title for tonight's webinar, the values-based
Mhm.
gifting, I'm wondering for you, if someone is not sure about their core values, do you have any recommendations or a quick exercise that they can do in their mind to help figure out what are their core values as they think about gifting?
Yeah, and I really love that question. Um, it does make me think about, a parenting class that I took probably 25 years ago when my kids were really small. And the therapist who was running this class for a group of young parents, she said, and by young, I mean we were in the early years of our children's lives. I was never a young parent. I started very late in life. But
Yes,
she
same.
said, the way children interpret love is time.
Mhm.
And that's always stood with me even into this business. And I feel like if either individuals or corporations are trying to do a values check, I think we need to ask ourselves or ask the companies that we work for, how do they distribute their time? And I'm going to add to that, and their money.
Mhm.
Because I believe those two things really tell the story of a company and what that company values. So that would be my 60-second check on how we can make sure we're aligned.
That's really beautiful, right? So it's not necessarily about the monetary value or the worth of the
Mhm.
gift. It really is the time. And so it's funny that you say that because I think my favorite gift, probably still of all time, um, was when one of my colleagues or my fellows, he was junior to me back at the time, baked me an entire tray of Christmas cookies of all
Mm,
different
right,
flavors, and I was out of the blue, I didn't expect a gift from someone, junior to me,
right.
and it was just thoughtful, and I still love handmade gifts the
Yeah,
best because I know the hours of crocheting that my friend has, given me a basket,
right.
those are always so meaningful, and I feel always so bad because I am not so talented. I
Yeah,
don't have these skills to be able to make these things. And yet these gifts are probably the things that have the
yeah,
most meaning.
yeah. Now, I think that's so true. And I think when someone receives a gift, like the gifts that we procure from these 30 plus communities, and then with that gift, they receive a story card that tells about the community, about the safety of the community, about the impact of the community, and then also tells the story of one of the makers, then they I think they get that same sense of purpose, of meaning, of what you're describing, that's actually someone's hands created this gift, maybe not with me in mind, but with hope. A quick story, I was with a group of women in Birmingham, Alabama, one of our maker communities, about 3 or 4 years ago, and there they work in ceramics. And these are women who have been sexually trafficked, who have suffered from addiction, who have just had some of the most tragic life experiences that any of us can imagine. Yet they are incredibly joyful and hopeful and work together in this beautiful workshop. And I was explaining to them at one point that their gifts were actually going to go to people, and I'm not going to name the software company, but at a software company that they all knew and recognized.
Mm.
And it was so exciting for them to think that someone inside this big company that was kind of mystical to them,
Mhm.
that someone was going to put an ornament on their holiday tree or on their windowsill or somewhere that they actually created with their hands. And it was such a beautiful, beautiful experience. And we work every day to try to help people realize how very special a gift can be when it's made by someone whose life is being transformed because of the opportunity that they are giving that person through their purchase.
Yeah, is really incredible even just be able to connect the story on both sides, right?
Mm,
So I think from the
right,
corporate side, just, receiving a mug or receiving a ceramic ornament when they're mass produced really doesn't have anything else, and you end up going to the recycling bin or into a
right,
donation bin, as
right.
compared to you think twice now because actually of the meaning of the card and the story behind the
Absolutely.
yeah. And,
Yeah,
so for love or maybe not love your particular employment at the time, the reality is a for a meaningful way for managers and also corporations to be able to give back to their employees. It's this is
absolutely.
yeah, because they also know that the
Yeah,
money is also going to people's lives. It's not
right,
just for the
right.
item.
Right. And
Yeah.
I do think we are living in a time where employees are becoming more and more cynical about their employers.
Yes.
And, am I really being looked after? Is my job safe? Does my company really care about me? And we believe that this is a way to say, look, we care about people. We care about our planet. We care about how clean our planet is. I mean, all of our gifts have a sustainability factor. Some of them are very, very strong. And so it really all ties in together. And also the awareness that the most impacted people by our planet are those less fortunate.
Yes. So that's a really important message just to think through that this company, your company, trying to connect these disparate areas across the world is really a lever for social change and really isn't about
Mm,
the things. I think a lot of us, right now really see that, AI and copying and trust being relatively low, and therefore having a handcrafted story to see the journey of even an item does become an
yeah.
important and really rare thing. I've never heard of a company to this degree. There are other social change, obviously,
Mhm.
purchasing,
Absolutely.
companies,
Yes.
but it's that story piece. I think is
Yeah.
where it can sometimes not always be so transparent.
Mhm. Mhm. Yeah.
And so I'm wondering, your partners create dignified work for people who have faced all kinds of barriers. And so, how do you decide, what kinds of gifts, how do you decide like which of these gifts and how do you design that the impact is real and for on both the maker side and also for the corporate recipients? How do
Yeah.
make that whole?
So there are there's a lot to unpack there. And one is kind of how we search out and discover and make this decision to partner, if you will, with these communities. And we refer to them as our partners.
Right.
And we work very much in partnership with them. Um, we first of all, it's about the organization's mission. So are they creating direct employment for individuals who are underserved, and are they being paid in a dignified way, whatever country they're in, whether they're in the United States or they're in Guatemala or in Rwanda?
Mhm.
Are they being paid dignified wages for what they're doing? Are they in a safe community? So, in addition to the wages, are they in a space, like, especially because the vast majority of our makers are women, are they, and the vast majority of them have dealt with some kind of safety issue, whether it's sexual, whether it's physical abuse, whatever it is, we want to be sure that they are in a safe, whole community. So those are two criteria. But then we also have to look at, are they making things that they can create on a scalable at a scalable level, and at the same time, are they able to really create things consistently that are brandable? So, and unfortunately, there are many, many maker communities that fit those first criteria, but that aren't able or aren't at a level yet where they can have their goods with a logo on it. It's I'm sure anyone in our audience would know that when it comes to branding a gift or any kind of gift or material with a corporate logo, there's a caliber there that is extremely important. And so that is often where, unfortunately, we have to say, amazing community, we will try to tell their story, but not a community that fits into the corporate gifting space. One of the things that I do as a founder is I spend a lot of time with our maker communities. I just made my third trip to Guatemala in the last 8 years to be with our communities there. We currently have 3 incredible communities in Guatemala, but part of my time and a big part and honestly the very best part of my job is getting to go and spend time with all these communities and making sure that what we believe is happening and the impact that is being made is being carried out. And that's I think the best way to really understand that is to be on the ground with communities and talk to people. And one of the real joys of my doing what I do is to go back year in and year out and see the same faces, or know that, in fact, we just had an experience a couple weeks ago that somebody from one of our communities has moved on to a bigger, better job within the community, but now able to really, again, take those bigger steps of self-reliance. And so those are some of the key things that come into play when we are selecting our communities.
That's so lovely. These are things again, like you normally don't never get to see or hear, like
Mhm.
the things behind the scenes for a company that does sell goods and products like yours. And so, thank you so much for sharing that story. Just to know that
Right.
there's monitoring and verification,
Yeah,
and just continued growth of that
yeah,
relationship.
yeah.
Um, so I'm also wondering, because everything has to be, you guys mentioned like brandable or
Mhm.
customizable, for different company clients' values. Do you have a checklist for sort of turning like the core values of a particular company, helping the company side figure out like, well, what gift would be good? I don't know. I'm not 100% sure. I can tell you what our
Yeah,
mission statement is, but then how do I
right.
find a gift? I mean, sometimes we
Yeah,
just need an expert gift finder for
yeah.
ourselves.
Well, and that's where, our service is very much a kind of a touchy-feely bespoke service. You can't just go onto our website and, click on 2 or 3 gifts and say, "I need 20 of those and 40 of those, send in 2 weeks." We really want to have that conversation. We want to understand, who are your recipients. Obviously, your budget is a factor. What kind of messaging matters to you? What kind of community is maybe important? Is it women? Is it victims of generational poverty? Is it people who are in a particular geography around the world? So we want to think about all of those things first, and then generally we'll come up with a deck of ideas, and then we take it from there. But it doesn't happen, we're kind of a slow gifting model, in the sense that, if you want to click and send, that's not us. But and also, because we do create bespoke gifts, we don't inventory, and your gift is made for you at to your specifications.
Mhm. Wow. So very definitely very boutique and concierge
Yeah,
to exactly what you're looking for. And
yeah.
so right now is the time, right? Like right now, there's
Right
enough
now is
time
the time.
right
Yeah,
now
yeah,
to figure out what you're gonna do by the end of December,
yeah,
to give some
yeah.
chance for everyone to get those things made. And so I guess the last question I have is, For people who are nervous about sort of the supply chain and sort of the footprint in terms of energy, right? In terms of being able to get
Mhm.
these things across the world,
Yeah.
how do you verify the supply chains and measure the impact, whether it's an economical or environmental? What kinds of simple impact summaries do you think that
Yeah.
buyers might ask you in terms of when they decide to partner with you?
Yeah. So, I mean, that's a really good question. And we do what we are able to control on our end. We are very careful about our shipping methods. In fact, we're putting together a program right now for a client where we make a commitment. We have a no plastic commitment. We deliver directly to an event when we can. We you know Let me back up a little bit, but a lot starts with the gifts and where they're made and how they're made.
Mhm.
Many, if not the majority of our gifts are made by either recycled, upcycled, or organic materials. So that's really where things begin. I have a couple of examples I could show you.
Yeah.
This is kind of a favorite gift, especially this time of year, because we're doing lots of wellness kits now. And I'm sure that, hopefully that speaks to you in your
Mhm.
space in the medical community, that employers are trying to focus more on people's wellness and on encouraging employees to think about their wellness. So for a lot of people, we do a wellness bag. We have a whole range of bags. This one happens to be made of all recycled materials here in the front of back. So this was throwaway scrap from the textile industry. And then these are upcycled seat belts from automobiles, the top and the bottom. The only thing new on this bag is the zipper. So this is where we start. And then the gifts that go inside, these happen to be made in India, and the gifts that go inside are shipped ground from the United States from various makers, whether it's lotions or lip balms, or even honey or tea. Those are all handmade in very, very small operations. So each of our makers is controlling their own path. Um, and so, to be perfectly honest, there are certain things that we can control and then other things that we can't, as far as what our footprint actually is. I hope that we get to the point where we can provide an exact measurement of that, but I think our clients see every day that because of how many materials we use that have been something else, and are making a difference in the planet, I think that really resonates. One of our client favorite gifts is the ocean bottle.
Oh.
And this is a bottle that comes in 7 different sizes. And the purchase of every bottle funds the collection of the equivalent of 1,000 plastic bottles from some of the most polluted waterways in the world. So the beauty of this is it's creating employment for the collectors. The collection is all traceable by IBM blockchain, and the operation is overseen by a nonprofit called Plastic Bank, which is then overseen by the United Nations. So we always thought we'd never sell any bottles, that everybody had too many, that
Right.
they were too, nothing had a story. These have an amazing story, and companies, I can't believe it, but they do still buy bottles and mugs and tumblers. And so, that's the kind of message that we hope we can pass on in our gifting, even if and that's something that's measurable. Um,
Yeah. I
so
love
we'll
that.
so we'll keep striving. We'll keep
Yes.
striving that
I love
we
that.
can
Thank
always
you so
report.
much for
Yeah,
sharing that. That's really
yeah,
important. Yeah, because these are just normal things that people ask. And so I appreciate your willingness
absolutely.
to come on and onto this live stream. So this is a moment for people who are on LinkedIn. I'm actually logged in now. And so if you have any questions that you'd like to ask Lori, we'd be happy to entertain them. So if you're on LinkedIn, feel free to put any questions you might have on the, yeah, put on any comments that you like to put. Well, we can answer your questions. So that's only if you're on LinkedIn. I apologize. I can't run 3 screens at the same time. But if you are on LinkedIn, feel free to ask the question. So I don't know, is there anything else, while we're waiting for anyone to see if there's going to be any questions from the audience, is there anything else you'd like to share as concluding thoughts?
Yes, one thing I'd like to share is that we love doing custom projects for organizations. So, a company might feel like, well, I don't see what I would want for my employees. And but because our gifts are custom made, our makers have lots of capabilities. And one gift I thought I would show you is a tray that we made for the 49ers
Oh,
football team for their foundation. And they came to us, they wanted the story, they wanted to make an impact on people's lives, but they didn't see anything football related on our website. So we worked with our team that does sustainably harvested wood in the northern Petén jungle of Guatemala. And they came up with this amazing design. And in the end, the 49ers Foundation was able to create 600 hours of work for this team in northern Guatemala, and made an impact, was able to share this story with their donors, who also appreciated the kind of choice that the organization made in their gifting. And so just to share, we love to do custom projects when people don't see what they want on our website.
so amazing. Yes. So basically, the story of this message in this live webinar is basically the website is just the tasting. At the end of the day, you need to contact Lori to figure out when her company to figure out, well, where you're going to be gifting this year. So, Lori, tell people how people can find you, get a hold of you, get right to figuring out what they need, because time's a ticking right now.
Sure. Okay. Well, the easiest is to go to our website, which is PBP, which is piece by piece, pbpinternational.com. You can also find me on LinkedIn. I'm Laurie Jones Pastroni, and it's Lauri Jones Pastroni. And of course, we're on Instagram and Facebook as well, but we have a much bigger presence on LinkedIn. So we hope to see you there. And yeah, that's our link. So
Awesome.
thank you so much. It's wonderful to share the story of our amazing group, super talented individuals, and hopefully we can share with more organizations and help them do more values-based gifting.
So thank you so much for
Thank you,
willing
Lillian.
to come on this LinkedIn Live with me, this YouTube, LinkedIn, and Facebook Live. And I think also I want to take this moment because we also at Transforming Healthcare Coaching are just starting out our holiday season. And so all of us are service-based industry, obviously. And so we have a couple of things coming up. So we want to let our audience know that and we're launching today, Med Thriving Virtual Summit in December. So we will put a link to that in the appropriate locations, and also we will be having ticket sales for that to happen basically starting now. So follow my LinkedIn, YouTube, and Facebook for more information on the Med Thriving Virtual Summit for healthcare professionals and their well-being. And then, of course, as many of you already know, we are also selling seats for the Reset Retreat in Sedona, Arizona in January 2026. So I'll put all of those links below, along with Lori's for corporate giving. And thank you everyone for showing up and saying hello. And thank you, Manji, for showing up. And so thanks
Thank
everybody.
you, Lillian.
Awesome. Have a wonderful
Thank you
night,
so much.
everybody.